Hello students, in today's lecture we are going to discuss Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own, here we will be discussing symbol and context that was used by Woolf in this book. So to begin with the symbol, the first symbol that we see like dominating the book is the light. So here the light symbolizes the genius needed to illuminate truth. So Woolf refers to that hard little electric light which we call brilliance, and notes that the lamp in the spine does not light on beef and prunes. Therefore, light is genius or artistic brilliance according to Woolf. So light also symbolizes the ability to see truth or to judge between truth and illusion. Woolf also refers to the white light of truth and calls the reader to hold every phrase, every scene to the light, because nature has given the reader an inner light by which to judge of the novelist's integrity or disintegrity. So here she has associated light to the brilliance or artistic genius of a writer. Next symbol that she uses in the book is 10 shilling note. So here, as she pays for the lunch with a 10 shilling note, part of an income from an inheritance left to her by an aunt, Mary Baton, wonders at the power of that note and its siblings, which seem to magically appear in her purse. They have the power to free her from the rust and corrosion, fear and bitterness. They means the money. So she had built up when she was without money. Thus, the 10 shilling note comes to symbolize financial independence and the way money has the power to lift the burdens women endure because of their poverty. So, next in the symbol is prunes and custard. Excuse me. After a sumptuous lunch at Oxybridge, built on a legacy of men's accomplishments and wealth, Mary Baton endures a meager dinner of beef, prunes, and custard at the women's college where she is staying. So the dinner is not inspiring, and she notes one cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one has not dined well. That means, unless a stomach is full, one cannot think of writing something new or something different. So that's why one should have fill of the stomach, and then only she'll be able to write something or express herself fully. So this dinner symbolizes the poverty of women compared to men and helps to make the case of a woman needs money in order to use her gifts to create work of genius. Next in the symbol is distraction and interruptions. Here she says, a man interrupts Mary Baton's path across the grass. A bell interrupts her thoughts. A restaurant check brings her contemplations back to the present. The essay's fictional narrative is littered with distraction and interruptions. So here we see that this constant interruption mimic the distraction and interruptions Woolf imagines must have been the reality for the writers such as Jane Austen, as they sat in their sitting rooms and were called upon to make conversation rather than write uninterrupted in a room of their own. So here Woolf includes these interruptions to symbolize the struggle of women writers and the need for a private space in which to write. Now moving further to the next symbol, it is Oxybridge. So Oxybridge University is a imaginary university that provides a setting for the chapter 1 of the essay. Its magnificent buildings become a symbol of the legacy men have built over many years. The wealth of generation of men built the chapel, placed in it lovely stained glass windows, and made sure it was filled with singers and scholars. Similarly, we find that the literature written by men was built up over time. From the earliest male writers through the English poet like John Milton, Italian poet like Dante, and English playwright like William Shakespeare, through the present. Male author built upon male author to bring about great literature, as stone is set upon stone to build a chapel. So, both kinds of buildings require money. In contrast, women do not have legacy of literature to draw upon because they have or they never had any money. The colleges are plain and small compared to Oxybridge, as is their literature, because there is not much to be drawn from women literature because nobody has initiated that much of writing, or no woman has initiated that much of writing. So, however, Woolf makes it clear the building blocks of women's literature are finally being set in place. She ends on a hopeful note, encouraging women to keep building, that means to keep creating literature. Now, after the symbol of the book, we come to the context of the book. So it is obviously like after the First World War and its effect on the gender role, we see is highlighted by Virginia Woolf. So First World War was fought between 1914 to 18, was unlike any conflict that came before it. So as the effort required a huge number of capable men and women, while women's domestic role was still valued, there were other opportunities for women, including women for the middle class, to enter what had been traditionally considered male occupation, at least for a time. So women took over jobs that had belonged to men when those men left to serve in military, because there were no men left to do the work which were earlier done by them. So now it was being taken over by the women. Overall, we can say about 1 million more women were part of the workforce in 1918 than in 1914. Most worked in factories or labored in fields, but a few became dentists or architects as well. In addition, we can say some women served in the military as nurses and pilots. So finally, when the war ended, some women were eager to return to their domestic roles. However, others found they relished the challenges and opportunities of work outside the home, and they resisted a return to so-called normalcy. That means the normal household chores that they were doing earlier. At the same time, we can say that some men who had been in combat took masculine pride in their military roles, but many others were traumatized by their experiences in the war. That means they did not want it to go, or they did not want to go back to the wars. Some of these men developed anti-war tendencies that were traditionally associated with women, such as a value for nurturing and caring for life. So obviously these were the traits earlier associated with females, but now some of the men started giving importance to these values also. Now, in addition, the traditional household structure, which included a great number of domestic servants, was evolving. So there were fewer jobs in domestic services, and women had to look elsewhere for work. So the years after the war created an inevitable tension between social progress and nostalgic traditionalism. So Woolf's view in a room of one's own occur in the roughly 20-year period between First World War and Second World War, that was fought in 1939 to 45, in the midst of this post-war tension. So in chapter 1, the narrator considers how men and women's expectation of world have changed, thus fundamentally altering gender interactions as well. Now, moving further to the context, we find that women's suffrage movement in Britain was also highlighted or spoken about in this book. So, where we find that women had been entering the workforce since the shift from an agrarian to manufacturing economy that occurred during the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century. But First World War increased their numbers drastically. Finally, in the second half of the 19th century, we find that groups of women advocated for suffrage, or the right to vote. That means they wanted a freedom in electing government as well. So suffragists and suffragettes fought for women's voting rights. Although their tactics differed, suffragists, who were mostly middle class women, took a more gentle approach, preferring to use petitions and lobbying members of parliament. However, suffragettes, on the other hand, were more disruptive. These mostly working class women were willing to break laws and go on hunger strikes. At first, women were given the right to vote in some local elections, and in 1867, Parliament voted on an amendment that would give women voting rights in all elections. While the amendment was defeated, the fight was not abandoned completely. So finally, after the First World War, put the women's suffragette movement on hold, as it took backseat to more pressing worldwide concern. And the desire for things to return to their pre-war state was a powerful force that pushed many women back into domestic roles following the war. But the seed had been already planted, and in 1918, women over the age of 30 who were also property owners were granted the right to vote. A movement to grant younger women the vote followed, especially since these younger women had done a great deal of the work in the war. And women over 21 were given the voting rights in 1928. Just 1 year before A Room's One's Own was published. Woolf's essay came on the heels of adding 15 million women to British voting rolls, a time when women may have been looking to future, wondering what's next. So obviously it was a path-breaking book that was written by Virginia Woolf, we can say. So finally, coming to next context, that was modernism in literature. We see that in the beginning, in the beginning of the late 19th and 20th centuries, writers began to focus on the unique inner lives of their characters. The seeds of modernism grew quickly during First World War, as writers searched for new styles of writing to better express the new world that was beginning to emerge. Along with Irish writer Samuel Beckett and James Joyce and British writer T.S. Eliot, Virginia Woolf wanted to explore this new way of writing and thinking about the world. So, modernism left many traditional conventions of storytelling behind. So, the narrative was often fragmented and conveyed through a narrow point of view, evoking the inner experiences of the narrator's mind with all of its associations and inconsistencies. Associations between the narrator's inner state and the outer environment resulted in metaphors to describe inner thought and experiences. So we can say modernist writers often approach the writing process self-consciously, inserting their authorial voices into the narratives. Although we can say that an essay like A Room of One's Own display many of these modernist characteristics, Woolf asks the audiences to follow along as she creates a fictional narrator and a fictional setting. The inner experience of having a moment of realization is connected to the external experience of seeing a pause in London's traffic and a leaf falling, for example. So this was something new that was being written by Virginia Woolf, or this style was something different, which was like not written before by any writer or not used before by any writer. So the idea of merging of two genders in one brain is connected to the external observation of a man and woman getting into a taxi. So this was all for the symbol and context that we had to discuss in today's lecture. Thank you all.